Welcome, welcome to Just Minding My Business Media. And I am so happy to bring to you today Jeff Holman, who is the founder of Intellectual Strategies and is changing the way startups and scaling businesses access legal support. As the creator of the first fractional legal team at Intellectual Strategies, he's made it possible for companies to tap into expert legal advice at key points in their growth without needing a full-time in-house team. Well, welcome, Jeff.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Pleasure to have. So, you disrupted.
Trying to disrupt just like all my clients do, right?
Yes, exactly. So, fractional is really becoming very popular. And of any type of service type organization because it saves money. Simple as that. It saves money. So
Yeah.
what does having this mean for businesses?
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a great question. And you're absolutely right. The fractional market for executives right now is just exploding. There are groups popping up, there's networks, there's job postings even. I'm waiting for recruiters to start saying, we're looking for a fractional position as opposed to full-time or part-time. So it's just a growing field. And if I might, there's one difference to what we do from other fractionals. And this is where the kind of the disruption comes in. And it might seem like a slight difference, but it becomes really important, especially in the legal field. And that is we approach this as a full-fledged in-house legal team. So you have a startup and they need contracts and they need fundraising and they need patents and trademarks and employment and all sorts of stuff. And we come with the full team. We're just available on a fractional basis. So similar to if you hired a fractional CFO, for example, to come and kind
Mhm.
of give you that strategic level overview and decision making with your financials. We just do it with the legal, but we don't just do it with one general counsel. We do it with the full team on a fractional basis. So it really is a game changer because startups, as you know, and you can pick kind of any field, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't really matter the field. There's a little bit of, difference here and there, but every field when you're doing a startup, you need a variety of legal tasks done. Now, you might not be doing them as you should. You're waiting because attorneys are expensive and perhaps sometimes unpleasant to work with, we think. But but you have these tasks. If you have partners in your business, you really should have somebody experienced helping to write your operating agreement or other corporate documents that says how you're going to work together. If you're bringing on investment money, if you're, when you're bringing on customers, you need customer contracts, you need vendor agreements. There's just so many things, and to expect one person to have all that expertise is that's like expecting one person to know every aspect of every type of marketing for every business out there, and it's just not practical.
Right. And nor is it's not it doesn't work that way. We don't know everything. We know
Right.
what we know, and then there's stuff we don't know.
Sure. And now with fractional, if you can get access to the right expertise from the right attorney at the right time, like how great is that, right?
Oh, yes, yes. And you want to build your business at the ground solid. You don't want to be, full-fledged in the business, something come up and you didn't have the legalities in place for it.
That's absolutely right. And I will say, on a practical level, I can acknowledge a lot of people bring us in later than the ideal, right?
Yes.
Who hasn't started a business and thought, okay, I've got 24 hours today and I need 56 hours to get everything done. Legal is the same way. I've got all these things. I've made a few promises to employees here, or I've been kind of casual with my first customers about exactly what they're getting, or the guarantees, or the payment structure, or these things slide a little bit because it's a lot of work to be a founder, to be on an early stage team, and things slide. And so, in reality, I would love to be there from day one with all of my clients. But sometimes day one for us is the day they decide to clean out the legal skeleton closet. And they're like, I am losing sleep because I've got this, and I've meant to do this, but I haven't done it yet. And so, we still love to step in on day two, if you will, and be like, well, let's clean out your closet and then we can do it right going forward.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about business strategy and how it drives growth.
Certainly, yeah. I love business strategy, and this might be a little bit unique coming from an attorney, but when I went and got my MBA, I went and got my MBA after I had my law degree for a while because I was doing a lot of intellectual property work. And intellectual property, that's the patents that protect your inventions and trademarks that protect your brand and those things. I was doing a lot of that, and I had this kind of recurring thought in the back of my mind from day one, back in 2001 when I very first started working with a patent attorney. Um, and at some point I kind of dismissed it and I pushed it aside because that's what the law firms taught me to do, right? And I'm like, it doesn't really matter. But it kept coming back up. And as I worked with small clients, it means even more. And that question was, what is this patent going to do for the business? How is getting this patent and how do I get this patent the right way so that it's really a strategic asset in the business? And that's kind of a tough question to answer sometimes because as attorneys, we're on the outside. People come to us when they need us and they tell us kind of limited information a lot of times because they don't know what we need to know. And then a lot of times in startups, the business model is changing over time. So if a patent takes 2 or 3 years from start to finish, you come to me maybe before you've even launched your business because you have this invention you want to create and sell, and we start working on it. But by the time that the patent office gets back to me with saying, well, your invention, your patent is rejected because these other things exist, and we have to kind of pivot and respond to those rejections. Like it's a year and a half, 2 years later, your business model is totally different. And so if I just go off of what I knew from the day we first met and I make decisions 24 months later using old information and your business is dynamic and has been moving and changing for the last 24 months, I'm probably out of alignment with your business. So I had this recurring question, how do I do things as an attorney, whether that's patents or contracts or whatever it is, that are in alignment with the business's strategy? And that led me on a path to go get my MBA and do all these other things and really study strategy. So that's like the long intro to the answer to your question. So business strategy, if you will. Here's how I define it, because I'm really trying to make it an accessible, easy to understand, easy to apply framework for people that any business could take and apply it in their business.
Mhm.
And so I've got five parts to what I'd call strategy, right? First, it's a plan. That's probably not surprising. It's a plan to deploy valuable resources, which in my case might include patents and trademarks. It might include your team. It might include, you know, strategic partnerships. It could be a lot of things, but it's a plan to deploy valuable resources for a sustainable advantage toward a business leadership objective in a competitive environment. And so, we talk about competitive environment, we talk about sustainable advantage. We don't talk as much about how the resources are valuable to achieving those things. And I think we talk even less as business owners about, well, what is my business leadership objective? Like, I'm doing this because within my market, I want to be the leader. Now, am I a price or a cost leader? Am I a branding or marketing leader? Like there's different types of leaders that you can be. You can be the Apple, you can be the Walmart, right? You and so you really have to kind of take all of that in a package and say, well, I've got to be pointed in the right direction. I got to be in the right room, pointed in the right direction, and using my feet to walk that way to really achieve what I want to achieve. And it makes it sound ultra simple to do that. I acknowledge it's way more complex to actually put the pieces in place, but you got to get the framework right. If you don't have the framework right, then you're kind of just always saying, well, we have some core values, and our mission is to be the best company ever or whatever.
Mhm.
But you're really not working toward a specific objective. And if you don't know how to work toward a specific objective and articulate that within your team, then you probably don't know how to share that with me as an attorney. And then I don't know how to align the work I'm doing with your business. So it really is totally maybe a selfish endeavor. I want to help you really define your strategy so that I can then do my job better and you can like me a lot more.
Yeah.
Because as an attorney, that's all I'm after. I'm after people liking me. I want to overcome this attorney perspective that we're bad, negative, bloodthirsty people.
Well, I don't feel that way about attorneys. I feel like a doctor. When you get in a legal situation, it's an attorney that can help you get out.
Oh yeah, we certainly can. Although I think it's a great analogy. I hope to be more than the emergency room doctor just fixing problems, though.
Yeah.
I want to be that health medicine doctor that you come to because you're proactively making your life better. And I want to help do that, right? We'll fix things along the way. If you break your ankle or whatever, we'll help you fix that. But
Yes.
but there's so much uh, less cost, and I think more fun doing things in an organized, strategic way than in a reactive and more chaotic way. Because startups are chaotic. They always are. That's just their nature. And frankly, I love it. I think there's an energy there that you can't replicate anywhere else.
Mhm.
But it also complicates things. And so you need to be able to maneuver within the chaos and start to create the organization and the direction that a real ongoing operating company is eventually going to need.
Yeah. So when you're talking to business owners, and it sounds like you got to do those probing questions
Oh yeah.
because they don't, I mean, it's almost like being a coach. You've got to find out, okay, help them think about their business, things about their business that they may not be thinking about through your
Yes.
probing questions.
Very much so. I mean, it's like going to your analogy with a doctor. Let's stick with that because it is like going to the doctor when I'm sick or, I usually go because I'm a kind of active guy and I hurt something and I can't play tennis anymore because I got a bump on my Achilles tendon or whatever, right? Which may or may not be a true story. But I go to the doctor, the sports medicine doctor, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I just know I can't play tennis right now. And but I don't know what questions to ask them. And so we've got to have that back and forth conversation. And that's when they're like, well, does this hurt? Does that hurt if I move it this way? Have you experienced this or that? And they're going to ask those questions. We do the same thing. We go and, a lot of people will approach us, especially startup founders, because they're really kind of visionary, fast moving people,
Mhm.
right? And they're like, I got this idea, and they just start running, right? They don't know what they don't know. And there's a big difference. You've probably seen it. A lot of us have seen it. There's a big difference between the first time founders and the second or third time founders.
Yeah.
First time founders are fast moving, break stuff and go type of people, right? Second time founders, they usually have broken stuff and they've identified which things really hurt when they broke them versus the things that didn't hurt when they broke them. And they're going to be more cautious. They also build a network around them of people, attorneys, finance, mentors who've been down that road and can help them see and avoid breaking some of the more important things that are going to cause damage. So that's where we are, and it's a fun, chaotic, um, energetic place to be.
Yes, and you sound like the type of lawyer I would like to have because you seem you're happy to be to support. Your energy levels are way up, and you can feel it.
Well, I mean, why not, right? I just got off the phone with a client, literally 15 or 20 minutes, no, I guess now 40 minutes ago. He called me, he said, and I'm like, hey, I'll call you, but I got a 1 o'clock appointment that's important. So I've got 15 minutes for you right now. He said, hey, I need your help. I just got a non-disclosure agreement. I've got somebody who wants to buy our company for this amount of money. And I've been with him since day one, right? Which has
Hmm.
been, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years perhaps. We helped him get a patent. We helped him form his company, get his team going, do some other stuff along the way, bring on some investors. And he called me and he's like, hey, I got this company that might want to buy my company, but but I got to hurry because I've also got this other company they want to set up an appointment for like next week. And I'm like, this is awesome, right? It's so cool to see something. I mean, somebody like they have an idea, and especially in the invention side of things. You have this idea in your mind of this piece of hardware, this thing that's going to make your life better. And not only do you bring that thing to life, you build an entire company around it and you start selling me. I'm not going to tell you who it is because I can't, but I'm so excited because he said last month was our first profitable month. And I'm like, holy cow, that's awesome, right? I've seen this from the very beginning. This idea has literally come to life, is making them money, and is going to hopefully translate into making them even more money if they decide to sell the company under the right circumstances. So yeah, I do love it.
Yes, I can tell. I can tell. So if business owners want to connect with you for your services, how would they do so?
Well, there's two ways really. I am very active on LinkedIn, so someone can look me up on LinkedIn. It's just Jeff Holman, and it'll say something about I build fractional legal teams. You'll see that on there. That's me. Just reach out and connect. I love to connect. The other way is for all of our potential clients, we will do a free 30-minute strategy call. So, we talk about strategy, we talk about where the business is, what kind of chaos they've created and problems that they have, maybe a roadmap. We'll start thinking about 12 months, 18 months down the road. What are the big milestones you're trying to do with your business? And what are the legal things that you should be thinking about with those milestones? And we'll try to spend 30 minutes to get some direction and see if there's something we can do and a good way for us to work with them. But that's a 30-minute call. You can get on my website. It's just intellectualstrategies.com. And you can see my calendar and you can schedule on there for a free 30-minute call. So
Okay. All righty. So let's talk a little bit about intellectual property
oh, yes.
and how businesses should approach that.
Let's do. So, I don't know if you have any specific questions you want to go over, but I could give, a lot of people start with, hey, I need to patent my brand or I need to trademark my invention. And I'm like, whoa, let's stop right there. The basics, right? The basics are you have kind of four types of IP. You've got patents, and that's for things that you invent, like usually physical products, sometimes software products. You've got trademarks. Trademarks are what protect your brand. So anything, your name, your slogan, even colors, sounds sometimes, um, logos, those are assets that you use to identify and tell other people what brand of product or service they're buying. And so you protect those with trademarks. Copyrights uh, are protection for works of art. So authorship is what we call it, works of authorship, works of art. So, you might have a painting or you might have books or you might have, sculptures. I'm just pointing to stuff from my wall here. The things that you've created artistically that you want to protect other people from copying. Now, there's some overlap because some of that stuff that you create artistically, like a graphic, maybe the graphic in your background there that
Mhm.
you might also use as your logo. You might get copyright protection and trademark protection because that same work of art is being used as a branding source identifier, we call it. So you
Mhm.
got those. Then you've got trade secrets. That's a kind of a different class. People don't use that very well a lot of times, even though they always think they have trade secrets. So trade secrets are things that you take kind of protective measures in your business to control the access to these things that drive economic value in your business, right? So a lot of times customer lists and the secret recipe type things. So those are the basic four types of IP. And
Mhm.
then one other thing I would add to that is contracts. Your legal contracts are really how you do everything you want to do with that IP. So you assign it from one person to another. An employee will contractually assign the ownership to their employer, or you might sell something to somebody else. You might license it out. I have an invention and I want to license it to somebody else. We're working this morning with one of my attorneys for a client whose hardware product, we
Mhm.
think is being infringed and sold by another company, a larger company. And, we're negotiating that license agreement. That's just a contract, right? So they can hopefully work together. Instead of suing one another, they can work together and
Mhm.
they can contractually agree that the inventor gets paid some money somehow for the other party's right to make that invention and sell it here in the US. So contracts are really they're the vehicles we use to utilize all of those IP assets.
Well explained.
Oh, thank you. I've had some practice.
I see. So how can businesses in emerging sectors manage legal challenges?
Oh, well, the real thing is asking the right questions. And if you don't know what questions to ask, maybe having a consultation to just outline to a knowledgeable attorney. Here's where I'm trying to go with my business. Here's what I think I want to do, or here's what I'm doing and have been doing, and and then just issue spotting is what we call it, right? In the legal field, we just issue spot. What are the areas where you might have some exposure to risk?
Mhm.
Or some opportunities, some legal opportunities. And they're just kind of two sides of the same coin. Their risk just means something you're doing might be seen as as an opportunity for somebody else to come kind of tag along. And that might be something you're doing proactively, and it might be just because of how your business is running. For example, if I launch a business and I have a brand and I just use a brand that is pretty generic, pretty common out there, there's a chance somebody else will start to be mad. They'll feel like I'm in their business with a similar or the same business name that they're already using. And they're going to, perhaps send me a letter or send me a filed lawsuit complaint, maybe. And so there's the risk that what I've chosen to brand my business as is seen or perceived as being an infringing action on somebody else's existing intellectual property, right? Um, and so there's those types of risks that you want to identify. But then there's also the opportunities, and that comes along with, well, when you get a patent, when you get a trademark, when you enter into a strategic partnership, when you raise money from somebody, what's the best time and the best way to do that? What's the best structure to use? And a lot of that starts with questions like, well, I'm going to start a business. Should I be an LLC or should I be a C corp? Or the question I love is, should I be an S corp, which isn't really the same. That's that's a tax thing, not a business entity. So we explain it. So, what's your entity structure? In fact, I had a friend call me. We played tennis together. We played together for, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. And he said, "Hey, I'm doing this new thing and I want to start this business with this partner and here's what our business is going to look like and we want to raise money." And I said, "Well, what are you planning to do with your business?" He says, "Well, I think we're going to be this." And I'm like, "Okay." Because even the decision on day one from being an LLC versus a C corp, if you're looking ahead, a lot of the things you're going to do 3, 4, 6, 10, 12 months down the road impact or should, you know, be factors that you're thinking about when you say, I'm going to be an LLC or I'm going to be a C corp. How you raise money is a big factor. How your partnership is structured is a big factor. How you want to be taxed. I don't do tax, but these founders will talk to either a tax attorney or a CPA or somebody like a tax advisor. How do you want to be taxed? That all those things have a big influence on what type of entity you should be, right? And same thing with when you get ready to raise money. Are you going to raise money? Like we hear a lot about VC funding, right? Which is the most sexy type of funding, if you will. Maybe that's the wrong term to use. It's the most kind of talked about funding, right? But it's the least common funding in reality. You have a lot of angel investors, you have a lot of seed investors, you have a lot of government grants that are non-dilutive funding. And so you start saying, well, when I raised funding from people, it really depends on who you're going to raise it from. It depends on how much you're going to raise. It depends on whether you want debt or equity financing. And then you have, some of these 4 or 5 or 6 standard kind of well accepted documents that you could use. but each of them has their specific place. And if you don't know how you're gonna, you know, when I'm talking with my tennis buddy, if I don't know what he's planning to do with funding, who he's planning to raise it from, what his entity structure is, then it's hard for me to say, well, you should use this or this type of, legal document to do that. And so it really becomes, and this is where it draws kind of on my engineering background, which was engineering, law, and business. My engineering background, I have kind of this tendency to take this systematic approach. Like everything's a system. Well, if
Yeah.
you do this, then that influences this, and then you have this,
Mhm.
and one changing one thing. It's the butterfly effect, across the world or whatever it is. One change here, and you have to tweak like a bunch of things within your system. And that's how I view it. And that's why I think it's so good to have even just even a quick phone call and hit the highlights of your plan, if nothing else, with an attorney so they can say, well, now that I know these 6 things in your business, it's really easy to say you probably should do this, this, and this. There's a bunch of other stuff that will come down the road, but let's get you started in the right direction.
Yes, and that's so important. We're all excited about our adventure and doing our businesses, and we fail to realize that we need to talk with people that can help us structure it in the proper way, legally. So that way we don't have to go back. And
Yeah, and I don't want to be a doomsdayer. I hate using fear as like a marketing tool, right? It's not my style. But the reality of it is when you do some of these things wrong up front, they can cost you a lot of time, money, effort, and in some cases even essentially cost the business, the entire business, because they're not done correctly.
Mhm.
And that's not to say that anything was maliciously done or even that somebody's not smart for doing it that way. It's just they didn't know.
Right.
And what you don't know, this is getting back to that first time versus second time founder. Second time founders just know a little bit more, so they do things a little bit better. First time founders tend to be more excited and tend to
Yeah.
not realize all the things they don't know and for that reason make more mistakes and generally make more costly mistakes.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, Jeff, you definitely laid it out today. So many gems. So I'm hoping, audience, that you definitely took some notes because we covered a lot of ground here. And Jeff, I definitely want to have you back because this is a really involved subject.
It really is. I'd love to join you anytime, Ida.
Yes, indeed. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to meet with us. And then, audience, also thank you. And we got to do this again, Jeff.
Sounds great. It's been my pleasure, Ida.
Absolutely.